Happy Friday. Welcome to My Truth, Your Truth, Someone's Truth. I'm Tammy Harleb, a.k.a. Reutemann, and I am here with my, well, let's just call him amazing for this moment, co-host.
Thank you for giving me that today.
Hey.
And I'm Christopher Blakesley. Super happy to be here today.
Yeah, I was only giving you that because we're going into Thanksgiving, and if I have to admit it, I'm kind of thankful and grateful and very appreciative for you.
Hey, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
I really do.
Towards yourself, because I know
Yeah.
you can't be
yeah.
talking about
Absolutely
me
not about you.
in that regard,
Yeah,
right?
no. I hope my audience didn't get confused on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have a tendency to confuse others.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so before we get going today, I do want to make some shout-outs because we have some birthdays. We have our producer, whose birthday it is today, so we say happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Aaron.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Aaron.
Happy birthday.
Our guest, her amazing
my
middle son, has
God.
his birthday tomorrow, right?
Yep.
The big
The big
third?
1-5.
1-5.
Yes.
Yep, that means another driver in
Yes.
the house.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I have my very good friend, who we had his dad on the show, Judge Boy. His son is turning 13 tomorrow. And and he's an amazing kid because he wants to actually be the president of the United States. And I'm telling you, he's going to do it. Out of any kid I've ever met, that kid knows more about history and politics than most adults I know.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some lofty aspirations.
Yeah, I know.
I think I wanted to play in the NFL when I was 13.
Nah,
or
this
something.
kid's serious and he's so intelligent. And if you ever had a conversation, it would blow your mind.
And he'll probably make it too.
I think he's going to do it. I will definitely support him. I mean,
He's already got your
turning
vote?
13, but he's a diehard Republican already,
Wow. Okay.
and has been.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. So
Well, big month. Happy birthday, everybody.
yeah. And today we have just one of the most amazing people. She's a really good friend of mine, and I mean, we have people send in our bios, and hers was extremely modest. And this is, somebody that I wouldn't care what her gender was, what her religion was, what her socioeconomic status was, no matter what she wanted to be. This is somebody that would always 100% be a friend of mine that I will always keep through my life, no matter what, because she is one of the most incredible friends I actually have.
Wow.
And I'm just so happy that she decided to come and get tormented with us today.
Don't make me cry live here.
Yes, but we have Sharlin Ahmed here. She is a genetic engineer by profession with a BS in microbiology. Don't let her looks fool you. She has an MS in biotechnology and a PhD in genetic engineering. She graduated from the University of Zimbabwe, Harare.
Harare.
See, I can't even read. And spent 1.5 years in the Netherlands, where she finished her MS and her PhD program. Respectively, Sharlin was born and raised in South Africa. She's a retired online biology professor from Park University, Missouri, where she taught for 12 years. She's also a member of the Clark County Medical Society Alliance in Nevada, which is a nonprofit organization comprised of physician spouses. And she is a past president of that as well.
Yeah.
She also belongs and is very involved in the National Charity League, which is a mother and daughter charity organization with her amazing daughter. She has 3 children. Yes?
Yep.
That she has 3 amazing kids, and I know that these kids are going to be powerhouses in the world that we live in. I mean, they have amazing, kind hearts. They go out of their way for other people. They're all happy, like genuinely happy people, and they all contribute in so many amazing ways to our community, which people that probably just don't even realize, you know. And then she has an amazing husband, Dr. Khan, who is an interventional cardiologist with the Nevada Heart and Vascular Center. They moved from Detroit in 2005 to Las Vegas. Don't know why we don't get snow.
Exactly, that's why.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Where she managed a neurology genetics lab at Wayne State University. Welcome to our show, my friends.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
What a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
That was a beautiful introduction. And she even told me before the show all this same stuff. So I know
Yeah.
it's true. She really feels this about you. And so I was really excited to meet you as well
Awesome.
today. So thank you for being here.
Yeah,
Thank you
not
very
only
much.
all of that, she is an amazing cook, and
I heard.
and she's an amazing, amazing singer.
Uh-oh.
Really?
So, like I said, don't let her pretty face fool you. She
A
is
woman
like
of many
very
talents?
talented
Yeah.
in so many amazing ways.
Well,
Thank
maybe
you.
later on in the show we'll get a song, a little
Uh-oh.
duet between you two. Tammy likes to do
Yes.
that.
No,
So
I
don't.
is fine.
I do not sing,
Well, then I won't
Well,
either.
and I think I've only done karaoke till you needed me.
well, maybe we're gonna have a repeat today.
Yeah, I
But
doubt.
what I was really interested in, and I know you have so many important accomplishments that we want to get into, but I personally am super curious. You mentioned that, or Tammy mentioned that you love to cook,
Yeah.
and you told me that you don't even use recipes.
No.
So you do it all by smell,
Yep.
taste, feel.
Right?
The
The looks, the way
the-
it looks, because
Wow.
that's very important too.
The second, whatever pops in the second
Yes.
goes in. I cook like that
Right,
too.
exactly. Whatever's in the fridge, or
Yep.
if so, go to the grocery store, something looks nice and fresh, grab that.
Man,
Do
I wish I
something
had
with
that
it.
talent. That's impressive.
Thank you.
And I'm sure your kids and husband love that.
They do.
About you.
They do. They have their favorite things
Yeah.
that they do like, which are the staples that I make all the time. But other
Yeah.
than that, yeah, I like to explore.
Is there any particular cuisine that are in those staples? Or-
Indian.
Okay.
Yeah. So they'll be like when my kid comes home and they're had a long day at school and stuff. They'll say, "Oh, can we have dinner?"
Uh-huh.
Dinner doesn't mean like, I mean, it has a specific meaning for them. So dinner would be like there has to be a rice dish, there has to be a chicken curry of some kind, a vegetable of some kind, and of course lentil soup. That's dinner. Otherwise, it'll be if it's a lunch thing, it'll be pasta, pizza, whatever. But
Right.
dinner is dinner.
Now-
It better
now-
be there.
I've been to her house at dinner time.
Sounds like a
it's
feast.
like it is a feast.
Yeah. That's impressive. Well, you conditioned them, right?
Yes.
You created a monster?
I did. I think I did that. Yes.
Man.
I don't know what she's going to do or what your sons are going to do when they go to get married because they're going to have to
Oh.
find people that spoil them like
That's on them.
you. Yep. And your
When they're
and your
married,
daughter,
it's on them.
she's going to get somebody and he's going to come in and look at this and that's going to be his expectation of her.
Oh, yes.
And I know your daughter and she's going to be probably looking at him like,
I know.
no,
She used
go to
love-
my mother's.
Yeah. No, she used to love to cook as well.
Uh-huh.
When she was like 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere there, she used to cook with me.
Right.
And then there was actually a time when she would cook it herself.
Oh.
Do the chopping, everything. Do
Yeah.
it all herself. And then she got busy with school and high school and so on. But it's there somewhere in the back of the CPU, I'm sure. It'll come up.
It'll come back.
It'll come back.
Especially when she's starving in a dorm room or something,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Then
Oh,
all
yes.
of a sudden it'll come back.
It will.
She'll be asking for you to send her dinners frozen so she can warm them
Oh,
up.
that's not happening. I
Yeah,
don't
is
do
that on the menu or is that
Nuh-uh.
no? That's not
It's all
happening.
fresh.
Mom's retired.
Yes,
Right,
Mom's
so-
retired.
So when she listens to this show, you just want to emphasize
Yeah.
it's not happening.
It is not happening.
How far away is she from graduating high school?
Well,
How old
she's
is
a
she?
junior this year, so next year
Okay.
she's a senior.
So it's a reality. I mean,
It is a
it's-
reality.
It's
Yes.
coming.
It's coming.
Are you helping her with college applications and the
Actually,
SATs
we
and all that?
just did our first official college tour.
I knew that.
At USD, and we fell in love with
San
the
Diego?
campus. Yes. Beautiful
It's not a bad
campus.
place to be. Yeah.
It's not.
Is
It's
there,
not.
there aren't many ugly places in
There
San
are.
Diego.
Yes,
Yeah.
there are. But that is just, it's on top of the hill. It's secluded. It's beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, I want to do another degree or something there. I was telling her that if you don't do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to let go. I'm sorry to tell you.
I know.
But she's not going to be that. If she goes to California, she's not going to be
She's
that
not
far
that
away.
far. And she wants to be on the West Coast. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, unlike my son when I had to let go of him and he went all the way to Illinois, which was also good because I'm originally from Chicago and I'm like, I get to go back and eat.
Yeah.
And does she have any other, like you said, that is that her top choice, or
Well,
you just said West Coast?
she's got a whole list that she wants to look at.
Uh-huh.
But we just looked at this and we fell in love with it.
Okay.
So that is definitely a
So it
top
jumped to the
contender.
top.
Yes, it did jump to the top for all of us.
Okay.
So she still wants to see Pepperdine and some others in LA and stuff. So
I've never been to Pepperdine, but I've
Yeah,
heard, because I have
yeah.
a few colleagues that went there.
Oh, okay.
It's in Malibu, right? Or somewhere like that?
Could you
It's-
not get in?
No
I'm pretty
way.
sure you
No
couldn't
way.
have got
I was lucky I got in anywhere. But I've heard
no.
that that campus
supposed to
is
be
like
beautiful.
overlooking the
Yes.
beach, the water on a
Yeah.
cliff. I mean, just amazing.
it's supposed to be gorgeous as well. So
All
we'll,
right.
we'll take a look at that
We'll
as
see
well.
who wins.
Yeah, we'll
Keep
see.
us updated.
I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And so you have a very interesting background, both work life, but also were you born in Africa?
Yes. So my dad is a physician. So he's from Bangladesh. My parents, they're both from Bangladesh. So they met there. They got married. My mom was a nurse, and then they moved. Now in that part of the world, to get out, you have to be either a doctor, engineer, or an architect.
Really?
And that's a third world country, obviously. So you want to get out and make life better for yourself, for your kids, and so on.
So when you say get out, you mean literally get out of
Literally get out of there.
To be
Yeah.
able to leave the country, which is
Yeah.
interesting because they let their top professions leave.
They
And then
did.
where does that leave them?
So I mean, right now it's a different world, of course. It's advanced, it's high tech, and all of that stuff. But it wasn't in those days.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad got a job in Tanzania, a
Okay.
3-year contract as a physician.
Uh-huh.
So they moved there.
How terrible.
Yeah. And my brother was born there. And then after his 3-year contract, then you have to look for another contract. So he got another one in Zambia, which is moving further south in Africa.
Okay.
So they got to Zambia, then I was born there. And then another 3-4 years there. And then it was actually longer that they stayed in Zambia. And then when they moved to Zimbabwe, it was time, I think, for my brother's high school. Was it? Yeah, it was time for him to go to high school. So the best high school was in Zimbabwe at the time. So my dad found another job there, so we moved there.
Okay.
And then, so that's where we stayed. That's where I stayed until my PhD. And, the university, the only good university at that time was University of Zimbabwe in the whole of the Southern African region.
Yeah.
So we were like in the apple of Africa
Right.
at that time. So at that time.
Probably by design, by your intelligent parents,
Yeah,
right?
because
to put
they
you kind of in
wanted
the
to give
center
us
of
the
it.
best. Yeah, they wanted to give us the best possible education they could, outside of the first world, which they weren't able to reach at that time.
Right.
So then we, moved to Zimbabwe, and then I did my high school there, university, met my husband there, and then his family had already, by the time he was already in medical school, they had already moved to the U.S.
Okay.
So the story is really, I don't know if you want me to
Of
get into
course,
the-
I'm fascinated. I mean, I'd love to
Really?
even get
Yeah.
into what Zimbabwe's like,
Oh, it was
especially
beautiful.
when you were growing up. I mean,
Yeah.
is it rural? Is it a big city? Forgive me for being so ignorant, but I'm
that's
curious
fine.
about this.
Zimbabwe was a beautiful, beautiful city. It was like sort of like a mix between San Diego and not Las Vegas, not as big and as flashy. Let's see, which U.S. city can I compare it to?
None.
Probably none.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it was really nice and quaint, and it was beautiful. The weather was beautiful all year round. People friendly, kind, and so
Yeah,
on.
none.
Yeah. So,
But you compared it to San Diego, so it's actually
like the part of
Coastal?
San Diego that I saw. No, it wasn't
Oh,
coastal
okay,
at
not-
all.
okay.
Just the weather.
got it.
The weather and the
Very
jacaranda
temperate.
trees.
The what kind of trees?
The jacaranda with the purple flowers.
Ooh,
The first time I ever saw that since we left Zimbabwe was in San Diego
is that right?
and Hawaii. Those are the only two places that we saw those trees. But yeah, so the climate.
Got it.
That's
like that.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom moved every year too, but not like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's very lucky to have those opportunities. And I know you travel a lot now.
Yeah.
And like, I've always thought, like, if I had to do parenting over again, I probably wouldn't put my son in this school. I would probably travel around the world with him and show him what life is really like.
Really like,
Because
yeah.
I think in the United States, we're very sheltered to
We are.
what is really out in the world.
Definitely.
And it's an amazing place, and people are so amazing.
Yes.
And it's interesting that, like, you go to different countries and you'll hear somebody say, "Oh, they don't like Americans," but then I go and they're
It's
they're
different.
opening their arms. In third world countries, they're inviting you in for maybe the last meal that they have
Yes.
for their own family, but
Yeah.
they're so loving and kind,
Yes.
and they want you to come. And
Right.
I mean, that's why everybody knows I want to be in Peru at some point.
Yes.
And every place has its good and bad, but it's just
Well, it just is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, I don't like to look at things as good and bad. I like to look at things as they just are what they are. And so be in the moment and experience it for what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's only our interpretations and perceptions that say something's good or something's bad. How about it just is and just go with
and
it?
take it as it is.
And take
Yeah.
it as it is. So you're Muslim. That's what you practice.
Yes.
And so before we get into that, I want to know what it was like being in different countries, being Muslim, and what the attitude was compared to coming to the United States, which has a different attitude altogether in terms of people choosing to practice being
Islam.
Muslim. Islam,
So
sorry.
yeah, no. So just a little bit of a background. My mother's family is Catholic,
Okay.
and she converted to Islam when she married my dad because that was the requirement, necessity, I guess, in those days to be part of a Muslim family.
Was it arranged marriage?
No,
No.
It was a love marriage.
Oh,
yeah.
good,
So
good.
and then, but to be, not necessarily accepted, but for some kind of a unison base, they needed to decide. Are we going to go Muslim or Christian for
Yeah.
our kids and the generations after that? So my mother converted to Islam,
Okay.
and so we were born and raised into an Islamic family. Okay, yes, we learned how to pray. We learned how to do all the stuff that we needed to do. The 5 pillars of Islam, which are I don't know if I should get that into that right now. but-
I would love to.
I'd be very interested. I know a little bit
Okay.
about Islam,
Yeah.
but I would like to know more
Okay.
because I find all religions to be
Yes.
quite fascinating in their own right.
Absolutely. And the way I see religion personally is it's not, are you Muslim? Are you Christian? It's not, that's not it. What I think, how I visualize it and how I taught my kids is we're all barking up one mountain going to the same peak. We're
That's
just
right.
using different roads.
Yes.
That is the only difference.
I think that's
You know.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful
and-
way to look at it.
Absolutely. And that's what I told my kids that, I was raised Muslim, so this is what I do. And we're more spiritual in our family than religious per se. So
I
Well,
do.
can
I do know that.
So
Yeah.
I know. So we all say that at different times, right?
Yeah.
Or at least we speak about it. Because
Yeah.
I say that as well.
Okay.
Right. I'm more spiritual. What does being spiritual mean to you
okay.
individually?
So for me, spirituality is, what are you? What do you represent? What legacy are you leaving behind? The sense of community, the sense of looking out for each other. I mean, that's what every religion wants. They want you to be a good person. Why? So that you have a community of good people who are all lifting each other up.
Right.
That's what every
Absolutely.
religion wants. Unfortunately, there are radicals in every religion who thrive on power by building up their own followers, and that's where the negativity comes in. And that is not religion.
Absolutely.
And that even goes in the context of religions.
Yes.
Right? So someone says, I'm Jewish,
Right.
I'm Islam, I'm Mormon,
Yeah.
I'm Christian, and they all have these little groups
Yeah.
that have their own concept, their own mindset
Yep.
of it. In studying religions, I've studied into all. I like to know what does each one have the foundation of, and the foundation is the same for all of
Yes.
them, right?
Yep.
Which is also interesting. So to me, religion is living within the context of being kind to yourself, being kind to others, helping other people out,
Yes.
being, just a nice, kind person within the world so we can all live in peace and harmony and let this universal God energy flow through the body
Yep.
and help each other. And so that deviation from that it happens in all the religions.
every religion,
In
yeah.
every religion, no matter what,
Right.
which is kind of interesting.
Very interesting. And since we kind of got sidetracked a little bit in terms of the 5 pillars of Islam, number one, if you don't mind,
No,
what
it's
are
okay.
they? And two, how do they help you to get to the point that Tammy just described of being a
Yeah.
good person and helping others?
So the first pillar of Islam is to accept that there is one God. Is the Shahada, Ashhadu an la ilaha wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu, which means that there's only one God, and Prophet Muhammad is his prophet,
Got it.
which is the first thing, the first pillar. Second pillar is prayers. You have to offer your prayers to Allah, and in Islam you have to do 5 prayers during the day. Obviously, there's not always time for that.
Can I ask a question about that? So prayer, like I
Yes.
do meditation, everybody
Correct.
knows,
Yes.
and that is connecting with the source,
self,
right? Is that the same in the prayer time? Is to be with yourself, be who and what you truly are, move away from the illusional thinking of living in
Absolutely.
the world.
100%. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And which is what, and you know, there are not rituals, there are certain ways of praying that you have to follow.
Okay.
And if you really break it down, maybe for another time, if you really break it down and look at it, it's basically a kind of yoga, a meditative yoga that you're actually
Yeah.
performing. You know, when you're doing those, you know, getting up, whatever you do with your arms, bending down and so on,
Right.
it's movement,
Yeah.
you know, bending every single joint in your body. So it's all a mixture of that. So that's how I see it, more of a spiritual meditative thing than a, you know, this, you have to do this and nothing else. It's why are you doing it?
Right.
That's the thing. If people understood that better, it would be
Right.
less of a chore.
Yeah,
And-
and there's a Kundalini section that you do. Section's the wrong word, but it's not coming to my mind. There is a
part.
Kundalini part
Yeah.
that you do that's identical
Oh.
to what you
Yeah.
what you do in
Right,
prayer.
right.
And I've been to Muslim countries, and it's amazing when the bell hits and the sounds come.
Oh,
everybody stops with
mesmerizing.
their mats,
Yes.
and it's the most powerful energy that
Goosebumps.
you've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It
It
would
is.
make sense, especially when it's so widespread, right? With an entire community
Yes.
all at once.
Yep.
You know.
And there's a call to prayer before each prayer, and that is echoed throughout the land of wherever it might be. So when we went to Turkey, we heard this. It was beautiful, you know, to
Can
hear
imagine.
the echoes from the mosque. The imam will call everybody to prayer, you know,
Wow.
and that's just echoed through the land, and everybody comes in, and then you know that's the time for prayer.
Of course.
It's basically
Yeah.
a time, I think, to consolidate everybody's mindset and to have a bigger effect that way. That's how I
Yeah,
see it.
that's how I see it.
Yeah.
The energy
Energy is
becomes
unbelievable.
one, which it
Yes.
always is anyways.
Yes.
And then it just branches out into different bodies.
Right.
I saw the same thing in Egypt and
Yes,
India as
yes,
well,
yeah.
different types of stuff like that. So
Right.
I thought it was like mesmerizing.
It is. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
So that's the second pillar, the
Okay.
prayer. The third one is pilgrimage. Once a year, once in a lifetime, to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. It's called Hajj. You know, so you go there and you do your pilgrimage. Every Muslim does that once in their lifetime. And
Is
then,
it walking?
well, you go to the place first, and
Okay.
then you circle the Mecca, which is the
Oh yeah,
Kaaba
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sharif.
I know what you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about. I've seen it.
Right. So that's the pilgrimage part.
Well, and can I ask
Yeah.
a little bit about that? So,
Sure.
is there a particular age at which you're expected to do that, or that's traditionally the age, or is it
No, I mean, it's
whenever you're ready?
Whenever you're ready. And
Okay.
as long as you did once in your lifetime. And there's also, you can also go there out of the specific time of Hajj, during that specific time of year of the Islamic calendar.
And when is that?
You know what? Off my top of my head, I don't
Sorry.
know. No, that's
No
okay.
problem.
No, because like I said, I'm not that religious that I know everything about Islam.
Right, of
I
course.
don't.
Of course.
You know, but I am spiritual, and I do, you know, what I can.
Yeah. It's,
So yeah, so that's the pilgrimage. Where am I? Number.
so that was
3.
4,
That was 4.
I think.
Okay, the other one was zakat, which means helping out the community, you know, giving money out of your income to help the community.
Is that just the Islamic community, or is that all communities,
Anybody
or
who
any
needs
community,
help.
anybody that
Anybody
needs
who
help?
needs help.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because when I look at Islam, and I'm Jewish, as
Mm-hmm.
we all know, and I don't practice the religion per se, but
Yeah.
I do the spiritual part of it.
Correct.
And that's the foundation of Judaism as
Mm-hmm.
well, is to be in service to all.
Right.
And when you look at Islam and you look at Judaism, although some people might get upset, there are some similarities.
There are a lot of similarities.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right? That being one of them, not eating pork, actually eating according to the First Testament
Yes.
or the Quran,
Yes.
which is similar.
Yes.
Wearing we
The
call them
topi.
yarmulkes.
Yeah. We call them topi.
You
right?
call them topi,
Yeah.
and then and I'm probably gonna pronounce it wrong, but
The hijab.
the hijab.
Yeah.
And in Judaism, the married women they wear shaitels, so they don't show their hair. So it's kind of the same. But can you explain the
thing
Sorry.
about no, that's fine. So about hijab and Islam.
yeah, and
Okay.
and do you wear that when you're married or when you're single?
No, hijab is a religious thing that you do, an attire that you're supposed to. So I have a different view of this, other than what we're supposed to.
Good. I
Yeah.
always like that. I never like the supposed tos.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've seen women,
Of course.
dressed in black.
Right.
The whole thing where you only
Only
see their
their eyes
eyes
showing,
showing
right.
and so on. Some radicals might get upset at me for saying this, but nowhere in the Quran does it say that a woman has to dress like that. Nowhere. I have read the Quran cover to cover in English, not in Arabic, that I don't understand.
Right.
I read it in English, and what it says is women are supposed to dress modestly. That is what it says. So, I mean, when you look at modesty, what does it mean? That you don't, over-exaggerate curves and show more skin, stuff
Right.
like that.
So you
okay?
don't wear red leather
Thank
mini
you.
skirts
Yes, and all the leather
with
stuff.
heels this high, right?
Well, that
yeah,
high, yes.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
high is
yeah.
okay, so to dress modestly,
Right.
so that you don't attract the wrong kind of vibes from people. Attention,
Yeah, right.
correct.
Right.
So now people who insist that women wear those, I think they are the ones that need to cover their eyes, not the women covering themselves up like this. So so in Islam, when we go to pray and stuff, we cover our hair, which is, I do that all the time.
And-
If I go to the
and in
mosque,
Ju-
absolutely.
They do that in the temples.
Right, correct. Out of respect, out of, when you go in prayer to
course.
focus yourself in, whatever you're doing. Yes, I cover my hair. Anyone that goes to the mosque does that. That to me is the modesty, that extent of the modesty I'd go for. But the rest of it, I think, is just insecurities on people who demand that of women.
One kind of projection, right?
Correct.
They want to
Absolutely.
prevent impure thoughts because perhaps they're having impure thoughts, right? But
Correct.
they put it on the female.
Yes.
As in, you have to control what
How
my
I'm
thoughts
going
as
to
a
feel.
man.
Correct.
Right. Right.
Exactly. So that's how I personally feel about it, and I know I'm going to get a lot of.
Well, I hope you don't.
I
I hope
hope-
you don't, because all
Yes.
all I see
Yeah.
is you telling, Tammy and I and our audience
Yeah.
about how you feel and how you interpret it. And I think there is
how I read it in the Quran.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think there is a discussion to be had, not necessarily today,
Yeah.
but about the letter of the law and the spirit of the law.
Absolutely.
Right? And
Absolutely.
there is a difference
Yeah.
between those two. But also, you're saying in the Quran, it specifically says dress modestly.
Correct.
Which your interpretation of
Yeah.
modest is obviously very modest and
Yeah.
very respectful and
Yeah.
specific
Respectful, that's
when
it.
you go
Yeah.
to the mosque.
Correct.
And it can be different there
Yeah.
because it's a place of worship.
Correct. Yeah.
So I hope nobody gives you any kind of hassle, because
And even
I
if they
think
do,
it's
it.
you're a strong woman. you can handle that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
And so those are the 5 pillars.
Yeah.
And we talked about the hijab.
Mhm.
And I know that we had spoken briefly about Sharia law.
Yeah.
And I'd like to get into that because,
Okay.
as Tammy had mentioned, I think we both have a strong interest in all religions.
Yeah.
But I have sort of a base knowledge.
Okay.
Right? And so I wanted to speak with you, if you're willing to,
Sure.
to kind of help us understand better what Sharia law is and how it applies.
Okay. So the Sharia law was obviously made to keep the community safe that the person was in, the Islamic community or whatever community it was, and to prevent crime, murder, theft, stuff like that obviously you don't want in a community, which
Right.
will obviously be there because of certain characteristics of people that you cannot
Right.
help.
Human nature.
Human nature.
Yeah.
Right.
Look around.
No matter
Right.
where you are.
Yes, no matter where you are. Yes.
Right.
So what it says, again, my reference is the Quran all the time. So what it says in the Quran, now interpretation can be different for different people. It says, always. So the Quran does specifically talk about the Sharia law, about yes, if you steal, your arms shall be chopped off. Okay, yes, it does say that.
It gets someone thinking twice about what
yes,
they're
think
doing.
twice about what you're doing. So-
Which, by the way, is common in many religions, right? In the Old
Yeah,
Testament,
right.
in the Quran.
So, yeah. Where I'm going is people didn't read the next sentence.
Right.
That was the
Okay.
first sentence.
Right.
Okay. So if you commit whatever crime, this is your punishment, blah, 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 and so on. Okay. That's what people take and run with and say, okay, you stole, I'm going to chop your hands off. You did this, I'm going to chop your head off, whatever. This is Sharia law. Complete, excuse me, but BS. The next line says, should the person repent, forgive them.
Wow.
Who wouldn't repent if you say, I'm going to chop your hands off now?
Right.
I am so sorry, I will never do this again. You know, or people will repent. Who wants to have their limbs and their body parts chopped off, right?
Of course.
So you never see people reading that second part of that line. It's the first line. Okay, you've done this. This is your punishment.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
What about the repent that specifically says in the second line of that same paragraph?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's
how
what baffles me.
Yeah, because how do you grow as a person if
Right.
you're not making choices that are leading to feeling a internal conflict within yourself?
right.
And, you know, someone could think, oh, I'm stealing and I don't care. But believe
Yeah.
me, they've created an internal conflict within
Yes,
themselves in regards to
absolutely.
that.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And so these places where the radicalness comes in and say, okay, this is the law. You do this, this is your punishment. That to me is not Islamic by any means.
And it's very selective, like you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Even within a full sentence, they read the
Yes.
first clause, and that's
that's
what
it.
they're, and that's
Right.
it,
Yeah.
and not the second part
Right.
about forgiveness
Right. Should
and
the
love.
person repent?
Right.
Like I said, who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't?
Right.
And that I feel like that is a truth that a lot of religions try to teach. I mean,
Yes.
I was raised Mormon.
Yeah.
We talk about, well, I mean, in the Bible it says turn the other cheek,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Those are common principles,
Yeah.
far more difficult to apply
Yeah.
to our daily life, right?
Absolutely,
To
yeah.
forgive, to
Yeah.
turn the other cheek, to
Yeah.
do those things. But what a better world
Mm-hmm.
would it be if we actually followed both parts of that sentence? Both don't steal
Yeah.
and also forgive,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And forgive me for not remembering, but was it Mother Teresa who talked about eye for an eye makes the whole world blind? Whether it was her or not.
Either her or
it's-
Gandhi.
Yeah,
One of
her or
them.
Gandhi.
Yeah.
So whoever it was, but what
Yeah.
a true statement,
Yeah.
right? If we're going
Yeah.
eye for an eye, if somebody does something bad, I'm going to do something bad
That too,
back.
yeah.
Makes the whole world blind, right?
Absolutely.
And so
Very
although we're specifically speaking about Sharia law
Mm-hmm.
and how it applies to certain, communities,
Right.
this is not just specific to Islam. This is a common thing in every community,
Yeah.
every religion, and the misinterpretation of it. And so
Correct.
I'm
Absolutely.
really appreciative of your clarification on this and your insight
course.
in it, because I think it's important to look at both the spirit
Yeah.
and the letter.
It definitely is. And the other thing, a little bit of a sidetrack. So what all the stories that are written in the Quran, you'd be surprised if you read the Quran, in English and stuff. All the stories that are in the Bible are present in the Quran.
Okay.
Okay. And there's a very logical explanation for that. So it's all chronological. So starting with the very first book, I think from the what are they called? The Baha'is.
I love the Baha'is.
Yeah,
That's
so-
another interesting
Yes.
religion.
So, I think it's one of the older ones. And then, of course, the Mahabharat, in the Hindu religion.
Yes.
And then, so it's a chronological thing. So as you're coming through time, different books are being brought by different people,
Okay.
right? So when the Quran was brought in, that would probably be the newest one. So all the stories that have been written in the past are in this book as well. So what we
Okay.
believe is that, and it mentions every single prophet that has been spoken about or spoken of in the Bible is spoken of in the Quran as well.
Right.
That yes, we believe that they are all prophets that were brought in to bring the message through this book, to the people, because they were losing track of
Right.
what they were supposed to be doing. And the only difference between Christianity and Islam, if you read the books, is that our book says Jesus is a prophet, not a son of God, because there can be no parallel to God.
Right.
And the Bible says that Jesus is the Son of God. That is the only difference in the two books, believe it or not. And this is
I
what all the
believe it.
factions are about, really.
Unbelievable. The divisive nature.
That's
I
it.
think sometimes human nature, we want to put ourselves on a
Yes.
pedestal, knock other
Yes.
people down.
Right.
And in reality, this is there's minor differences.
Minor difference. And this is what, like, religious leaders, some, and I'm not saying all of them,
Right.
some of them who want to exert their power on people, they need followers. How are they going to get followers if they don't create this divisiveness between people?
Right,
And
for
that's
control,
and that's unfortunately
unfortunately.
what happens in every religion.
Exactly. And so what's the number one corporation in the entire world? Nobody knows?
Apple?
The Catholic the Catholic Church.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
yet look how
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
around the world people are suffering.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
people don't have food. They don't have a place to live. I remember, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, I read an article in the New York Times that the churches in New York City started putting those water sprinklers so the homeless couldn't sleep in their doorway. To me, I look at that and say, where is the kindness
The
and the
humanity.
love in that? And isn't that religion, no matter what religion you practice, it is to build that moral foundation.
Absolutely.
It is to say, hey, I practice this way, but as the whole, we're all supposed to be practicing this way.
Right.
And this is something that really is disturbing to me, that we're not coming together no matter what we practice to say, listen, we are human beings of this thing called earth, and we're destroying our earth, we're destroying our people, we're destroying everything out of hate
Yeah.
and unkindness, and bigger yet, a misinterpretation and a misperception of what you think somebody practices or the way that they see something,
Yeah.
and you have now moved yourself as no longer a part of that person. Well, guess what? We're all this energy. That's all we are. Whether we call it a God energy, a universal energy, it's a one energy. And now we all have different bodies in which it moves from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I had been reading and talking with some friends, and we had mentioned that in a way, all of us humans, we're just part of one large organism, right?
Yep.
We are actually interacting, exchanging energy, and we're actually the same thing, but what we've done is we've drawn borders on a map,
Yep.
right? We've labeled one book the Quran, and one book the Bible, and the Torah, and all these things, and I believe in this one, so I'm different and better than you are,
Yeah.
when in reality we're actually working against each other
Yep.
for literally no reason.
For no reason, because like I said earlier, if you look at the foundation of all the religions, they all say the same thing. Do this to be kind and loving to yourself, to be kind and loving to another.
your
Our
neighbor.
job on the earth is to be in service. And the service is we are this energy that has its own agenda, and we just have to get out of its way and allow it to kind of work that agenda, you know? How we separate it off is beyond me, because honestly, there are religious people and books much older than the Old Testament, right? Which is the foundation, and then a lot of things came out of that. There are things thousands and thousands and thousands of years before that, with people that had different names, but they were like a Jesus or a Moses or a Muhammad, or I'm not sure about
I know where you're going.
Yeah. I'll just stop
But,
right
well, while we're talking
there,
about the prophets, was because obviously Muhammad is the status that he holds because he was the last
Yes.
prophet who can you describe, so for the people that may not understand, and I know again the basics,
Yeah.
but who is Muhammad, when did he come, what did he do, and why is he preeminent, I guess, for lack.
So he, again, every prophet that has come to date, what was their role, right? To bring the community together,
Yeah.
to end all this divisiveness, to end, worshiping idols, to this thing of monotheology, to bring it into the fact that there's one God that you should pray to. And why are you doing it? If you've strayed, if you're there's lots of battles going on, there's lots of people, fighting each other. Why are you doing that? We're one people. So
Right.
to bring this message forward, it takes that one special person to do it, and who has been
You can get their attention.
to get the attention,
Right.
and who's been actually chosen by God so to speak. Hence, they're the prophet.
Got it.
So so that I guess was Prophet Muhammad's thing,
Yeah.
to come in and to continue what Prophet Jesus had tried to start
Right.
and had started and brought it this far, and people started to stray again. So Prophet Muhammad came in to try and corral them back into where they're supposed to be.
I think
in the
that's
whole-
beautiful, and
Yeah.
I like the idea that all of them had the same goal.
They all had
and
the
they were
same goal.
continuing one
Yes.
another's work.
Yes,
Not that
absolutely
they
they
were
are.
preaching anything
No,
different from
no,
each other.
absolutely not. And that's why I say it's a chronological thing, which is why Prophet Muhammad is not in the Bible, because he wasn't there at that time. He came afterwards,
Right.
and so on. But in the Quran, you will read about every single prophet that came before him, before Prophet Muhammad.
I think that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
they all teach the same thing.
They all teach the same thing.
Even Buddha,
Yeah.
which isn't Buddhism really isn't seen as a religion.
No.
It's seen as a philosophy.
Right.
And Hinduism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the core of it is all the same.
Yeah.
We just call it words
Yeah.
that are more comfortable for each different section of
Correct.
people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But we're all the same. Where we got off track to think that we were any different from anybody else. I mean, if you think about it and you break it down, we're all born into a body. No one can say that they're not.
Yeah.
Right? We're all going to die.
Yeah.
That's a fact. We all go through this crazy thing called life. We're all struggling to learn how to be internally peaceful.
Correct.
Period. Life is that simple.
Well, and
Peaceful with ourselves and each other.
of course, and
Yeah.
I think how do we be peaceful with others if we have turmoil and
Yeah.
angst within, right? Within
Right.
ourselves. And going back to some of the prayer, because one of the things that struck me, number one, I wasn't aware that it was an actual pillar, one of the 5 pillars of Islam. But I found it very interesting that it's not just an actual prayer that you're saying or thinking, but it's actually a physical
Yes.
thing
Yep.
that you're doing, right?
Absolutely.
Genuflecting, kneeling,
Yes.
bending over.
And
But
focusing.
and there's
And
no
focusing.
difference between that and praying in a Catholic church,
Yeah.
praying in a synagogue,
Absolutely.
doing chanting as a monk.
Yes.
It's all that really is to heighten focus,
You're
to go
focusing your
deeper
energy,
within.
Right.
Well, and that's exactly what I was getting at is it's an action.
Yes.
Right? Prayer is not just something you think and,
Right.
oh, I'm going to send my prayers,
Right,
right? How about
exactly.
the action?
Yeah.
Right? And I
Yeah.
feel like it's a beautiful
Yeah.
metaphor of, the kneeling on a rug
Absolutely,
at a
yeah.
particular time in a day,
Right.
genuflecting, kneeling,
Right.
all those things. I think it teaches a lesson even in the act of it.
Yeah.
That-
And sorry to
Please,
interrupt you.
please
But
go.
one more thing that adds to that is the focus of the energy. So everybody around the whole world, when you pray, you point towards Mecca. So again,
Nice.
Focusing that energy into that one focal point.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think that's a beautiful concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. It's truly amazing. So, given all of that, and so now we have some groups of people that are being targeted in the United States and around the world. And I'm going to throw out the groups. The groups are Jewish people, they're the Islamic people, they are the Hispanic people, they're the Chinese people. I mean, these are the main groups right now that are having big issues, especially in the United States, where people are thinking that they're different or they're better, or I don't know what they're thinking, to be so unkind to a human being they don't even know. They don't even know. There are unkind and unloving human beings in every single walk of life, okay? And yet people are being attacked that are very kind and very loving and contribute and are in service, and they're literally being attacked because of their skin color or the religion that they want to follow, or because I think it this way and you think it that way. How is that going, when you have to send your kids to school, or even send your husband off to work, or even go out and do something? What has been the mindset for you as a parent and a wife, and somebody that does practice being a Muslim in Islam?
That's a very interesting question. It makes you think. Made me think.
I do that sometimes,
yes.
except not to Christopher, because we got
I'm
to keep the
incapable.
thinking down a
Oh,
little bit.
come on. So, personally, you know, as an individual human being, not as a mother or as a wife or anything, just as a personal, just a human being, I have nothing but empathy for these people, you know, who are, because nobody is born with that kind of hate and anger. Nobody is born with that.
Agreed.
It's something that's cultivated, something that's in their environment that's making them behave that way. So I have empathy for them. I have no hate for them.
Right.
There's nothing to hate about that. You know, there's nothing, oh, if you say this or do this to me, I'm going to, like, you know, get my revenge on you.
Right.
None of that. I will bring you in. I will educate you.
Well, you
That's-
cook,
Yeah.
of course.
You know, so that's my personal idea of how I deal with this stuff. And honestly, we've been in the US I've been in the US for now, how many years is this? 26 years, 25, 26 years. And personally, I have never encountered any kind of racial or religious kind of conflict directly
Wow.
upon myself.
I'm
That's
happy to hear that.
Yeah,
amazing.
I have not.
I'm
Good.
sad
But-
that I'm a little surprised, but I'm very happy to hear that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I personally have not.
Good.
But I know people who have. And I also believe that, I'm not saying that it's anybody's fault, but whatever energy you give out, you get back.
That's right.
I believe that.
Karma.
Yeah, it is not a brutal kind of karma, but a more empathetic kind of karma.
No, I get that. Like, I have a
Yeah.
lot of sadness and pity
Yeah.
for them.
Yes.
Because I couldn't even imagine what it's like to be them.
Correct.
With so much deep,
Hate and
heavy
Yes.
internal conflicts
Yes.
that they're living their life completely
that's
unpeaceful
That's
with.
the thing. And that's what I try and educate my kids, you know, with. Like, if there's ever something in school, you know, people say unkind, kids are kids.
Of course.
They say unkind things to each other, oh, you know, about race or about religion or whatever. And when they come and tell me the stories, I give them my perspective of it, of how to be empathetic towards those people, because they're ignorant. They don't know what they're saying. They don't know what they're feeling when they're saying this. They don't know what they're doing to their own souls while they're doing this.
They're afraid. They're
Yes.
living in fear.
Yes.
Which is not a peaceful
Absolutely.
way to live.
Absolutely. And, you know, so these kind of things, that's the teaching that I give my kids. And I haven't heard that they've personally experienced any kind of racial, you know,
Profiling.
any kind of racial stuff like that. I mean, my kids are, you know, the school that they're at, I don't know if I should say the name of the school.
You don't have to name the school,
but they're very inclusive, very,
Good.
you know, the kids are well educated of different religions and so on, and they try to make it more inclusive. But of course, still you'll have, you know, the outliers who it's not the kids' fault. They were not born like that. It's what
No.
background they get from the parents, what they hear the parents saying, and that's what comes into the classroom from time to time.
Yeah.
So that's why I educate my kids to educate them. You know, that's how I see it. Shahab at work, he too will tell you that he has never had any personal kind of racial bias towards him.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But we have, while we were in Africa, believe
that
it or
right?
not. Yes.
Wow.
We have had, you know, I remember this one time when my parents, when my mom and I were, I think, shopping somewhere, grocery store or something. There were a couple of black guys, you know, hanging around the, I'm going to say black African because that's the term that I use. I'm more African than you can even imagine, born and
Right.
raised.
Right.
So there are a couple of, you know, black African boys standing out the store, and they tell my mom, something along the lines of, "Well, we're going to marry this Indian girl. This Indian girl is going to become one of us now," you know, and you know, just like she's
Referring to you.
yes, that if she's Indian and she's here, she's going to be marrying one of us African boys, you know, stuff like that.
Right.
So, you know, that kind of stuff did happen from time to
Right.
time.
But
Luckily,
is that just a disrespect for women?
it's
of
no,
that
it
mindset?
was a racial thing too there,
Okay.
because it was all the Asians, Indians that were coming in and boosting the economy. You know, as far as the retail and so on goes, they were all run
Right.
by Indians, and I think the black Africans had a little bit of a antagonism against that, because you know, you guys are coming and taking us over type of stigma, but not seeing that we're putting the country forward. You know, we're taking it up.
Right.
You know, at the same time. So, including, you know, because like I said, from the third world country, all these physicians and all these professional people were coming in and lifting the country up in that sense. But the locals didn't see that. All they saw was we being taken over.
Well, no, we kind of mentioned that. Tammy mentioned it about the fear.
Yeah,
Right? And
yeah.
the ignorance is what you mentioned.
Yes.
And the power or loss of power.
Yes.
Right? And that's a
Absolutely.
very specific example of you walking into a grocery store in a very specific geographical location,
Yeah.
but it's happening here in Vegas
Yeah,
as well.
it is. It is.
It's happening in Cincinnati, Ohio, wherever
It
you
is,
are.
yeah.
That is an example,
Yeah.
and it is based out of fear.
It is.
And
It
what a
certainly
sad,
is.
rough way to live.
Yeah,
that
it is.
so many people are struggling with right now.
And I don't know how we can alleviate that other than educate people, you know?
Right.
That's the only thing left, because you can't fight back with that. I mean, what are you going to do? Like you know, you said, an eye for an eye, everyone gets blind in the end.
Right.
So that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is what you guys are doing right now. You know, this I think is so valuable, this platform, to educate people, reach as many people as possible, tell them that, you know, it's being a Muslim, being Islamic does not mean I'm a terrorist, I'm going to come and blow you up.
Of course.
You know, on that front, these people who are calling themselves Muslims, these terrorists who are strapping themselves with bombs and going and blowing themselves up, do you know what one of the biggest sins are in Islam that's written in the Quran? Is taking your own life.
Wow.
That's one of the biggest sins in Islam.
Mm.
How do you call yourself Muslim if you're going and doing this, taking your life in addition to so many other lives? This is not even their fault. This is brainwashing, you know, from those radicals who themselves are misled. You know,
That gave me
Yeah.
chills when you described that, because
Yeah.
it's something you've mentioned a couple times, right? Power.
absolutely.
And men
yeah,
or women,
or
depending.
women, yeah,
Who are seeking power, and the way they do that is to
Yeah.
brainwash young,
absolutely.
uh,
Grab them when they're
ignorant,
young, yeah,
and teach them to do horrible things like
yes,
that.
yes. And they
Well, they
believe,
teach them how to fear,
yeah,
to
and
be
they-
afraid.
And they, no, and these kids,
Yes.
you know, who are getting
Young kids.
young kids,
Yeah.
they believe with every fiber of their being that by blowing myself up, I am going to go to heaven. I'm going to go to this seventh, you know, sky and just be this completely martyred human
Exalted.
being,
Yeah.
exalted
Yeah.
and uplifted, and they're brainwashed to believe that.
Ah.
And if and you know, when you go to some of these madrasas, they call them where they teach them, you know, how to read the Quran. I went to a madrasa myself when I was in Zambia, in
Okay.
Africa. So there you're supposed to memorize the Quran in Arabic. So you sit there and you read and you read and you rock and you rock and you read and you memorize, and then you come out and you have to recite it to the imam who's there. I'm doing this, but do I know what I'm saying? I have no clue what I'm saying. I'm doing this because the imam told me to do so. I must memorize it, and then I'm a good Muslim if I memorize the Quran. And
Without
I
understanding.
found it so wrong on so
Yeah.
many levels. But there were like 90% of the Muslims were doing it. They believed in it.
Right.
But I didn't. I've always been the rebel. I'm the black sheep. So I've always been the rebel. So I needed to understand what I was reading. Why are you memorizing this? What is it teaching you? Are you learning anything while you're memorizing these verses? No, you're just reciting them. And when these kids are going and blowing themselves up, they're reciting these
Right.
verses. You know, and you know, and like when they say, Allahu Akbar, that's become like a nasty, bad thing to say, you know, in the US. Do not say Allahu Akbar. Why? All we're saying is praise God.
Right.
That's all we're saying.
But they've
But
usurped it.
Yes.
They've
the
taken that,
context that
right.
they've put it in is not the context that it was meant for.
Plus,
And-
they don't understand the language.
Correct.
Are they? Do the Ten Commandments come into Islam?
They are definitely in there.
Okay, they're in
Yeah.
everything single
Yes.
religion
Yes.
as far as I know, right? And one of the main commandments is thou shalt not kill.
Correct.
And that, to me, I mean, I stopped eating meat, 8 months ago because of that. Because thou shalt not kill means thou shalt not kill anything, including an animal, you know? And then people say, well, you pick the fruits off. I said, the plant knows that it's growing to share its energy for food. The animal doesn't know it's being born to be killed. A child doesn't think it's being born to live a couple of weeks or a couple of months or a couple of years to die. We all know that we're gonna die. It's when, and it shouldn't happen sooner than later. And I'm not even gonna get into that because that's a whole different spiritual mindset that I
Yeah.
have that we could get into for hours,
Yeah.
you know? But here we are, we all say, I'm Islamic, I'm Jewish, I'm Catholic, I'm Christian, I'm Buddhist, I'm Hindu, I'm Mormon, and yet we hold weapons
Yeah.
out of fear and think that we have some right to take somebody else's life, period. And like, I don't have a gun. I will never have a gun. People say, well, what about if you had to protect? I'm not protecting stuff in my house that's easily replaceable. And if it's my time to go, take me, because you're going to take me before I ever pick up a weapon against another person to take them.
Well, and even along those same lines, of course, you know, violence against another human is horrible, deplorable, evil.
Including the military.
Well, of course. But what I'm saying is that's the extreme example. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of extreme examples right now. But on a daily basis kind of level, how about the evil words that we're spewing at the anti-Semitic, right? The anti-anything, anti-Islamic.
Yeah.
I think it's something that's overlooked.
Yep.
And it's because we have so many extreme examples right now. But the truth is, and everything you've talked about today and that I've really appreciated, is it's really just about our interactions with other humans.
Absolutely it is.
Muslim, Jewish, Christian, it doesn't matter. It's just with the energy that we're exchanging with each other. And we happen to have 3 people at this table right now who are raised in different religions, different ways. And we've all very easily found common ground.
Absolutely.
And appreciation.
Yeah.
And I think the way that you've described it, the way you live and your religion in general has been a beautiful, inspiring thing for me to hear.
Yeah.
And you thanked us for the platform. We're thanking you. I really think that your insights are going to give people something to think about and appreciate.
I hope so. Because we really need that change. We really do.
No question.
That education of what it is to be a Muslim. You know, it's not all about terrorism, although that's what they would like. You know, the terrorists have made it so they think themselves are the uplifters of the religion of Islam, and they are not. They're the farthest things from it, honestly.
No question about that. And it's the lowest common denominator, but it's the thing that's going to get clicks and news channels covering it. But the truth is, to me, what it means to be Muslim is everything you talked about today.
And which is the same as in every religion.
It means to be human.
Yeah, it means to be human, absolutely, and care for the other human beings around you.
That's right. That's right. I'm like so thankful and grateful that you came and spent time with us. I really hope that people understand a little bit better that there is no difference. There's really no difference.
There isn't.
And stop thinking that you're so different from another human being, because you're not.
No question.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for being with us. I see why Tammy likes you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
And really inspiring, and can't thank you enough.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So really quick, I want to jump into a technique. And because we've been talking about a subject that, you know, a lot of people get passionate about, well, I'd like to just tone it down for a little while, just for a couple minutes. So what I'd like everybody to do, unless you're driving, well, you could try it, but you probably won't be driving very far, is to close your eyes and move your full attention, awareness, and focus to the top of your head. And if you could just imagine this energy that we all belong to starting to move through the top of your head down to your heart center, and let the heart really start to shine. Feel it, experience it in whatever way is the most peaceful and loving for you. And once you have your heart open, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to move that energy up from the heart to the shoulders and down to your hands. And I'd like you to put your hands in like a prayer position, and just a little bit away from each other, not so hard, Christopher, just relax, almost like cupping. And I want you to get a certain person in mind that you know that can benefit from loving, peaceful, kind energy. And I want you to start to think about that person, see them. And in your own head, I'd like you to say, I'm going to send whatever that person's name is, this healing energy, so that they can feel, even if it's just for one moment, a sense of true inner peace and comfort and happiness, and most important, freedom. And as you're focusing on that, be aware that the energy will start moving your hands out, almost as if you are kind of capturing a ball. And go ahead and let it move out as if you're creating this ball between your hands. And feel the heat between your hands in creating this amazing energy ball. And when the hands stop and this ball is at the exact size that it needs to be for this person, go ahead and release it and drop your hands. And just be there for a second, thanking yourself that you're able to send this amazing energy of love and peace and compassion to another human being. And in that, we also get to experience our own self-love and understanding and compassion, and most important, our own healing, our own inner peace. And that energy has made it to that person now. So if you could just thank yourself for being able to do that, not just for you, but for somebody else, that would be amazing. And remember, you have sent them a part of your own energy, which is in fact a part of their energy. And I thank everybody for joining us today. And I send all people in the world, because I am an advocate for the people of the world, love and light and peace and healing to you and to all of your families. Happy Thanksgiving. Let's all be thankful and grateful and appreciative that we're able to actually be on the earth at this time, doing our part to not only heal every aspect of the earth, but to heal ourselves and help people heal themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Christopher.
Appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Tammy.
Thank you, Sharlin.
And we will see you next week. As always, brought to you by LBC Law Group and Danny's Dynamics. And search for us on social media, Our Truth Media, My Truth, Your Truth, Someone's Truth. Thank you. See you next week.